So we did a piece of work earlier this year, and I'm delighted to be able to share it with you. But let's start. Suki, why did we do the piece of work? Why did we do our roundtable?
Thanks for that question, Sheuli. So I had the privilege of leading the COVID vaccine trials delivery in Northwest London on behalf of NIHR. And actually, my experience is slightly contrary to some of the statistics we've already heard this morning, because one of the vaccine trials that we recruited for in Chelsea and Westminster Hospital, for example, the population just outside that hospital, about 30%, can everyone hear me? Yeah. About 30% of the population outside Chelsea and Westminster Hospital comes from a diverse background. And where we sit in Northwest London here today, half of our 2.6 million people in this population comes from a diverse background. But if you look at the recruitment to one of the vaccine trials that we ran at Chelsea and Westminster, the diversity represented 4%. So pretty staggering statistic. And it was that drove me to think about what can we do. And that was what led to the round table that we held. And I thought it was really important that we don't think of this in our institutional silos, but we think about this work together and actually co-produce our ideas and our thinking with industry, rather than just sitting in the NHS on our own. And so that's what led to the round table.
Brilliant, thank you. So we held the round table in February this year with people from across the sector. Great.
And Sheuli, why do you think this is relevant today?
I think this is really fundamental when you're thinking about health inequalities. In sort of preparing for today, what I was thinking about was that phrase, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. And we have, and by we I mean those involved in life sciences and research, we've tended to do fantastic ideas with innovation, whether it's medicines or other innovations, but then testing them and getting the evidence for where we work in populations that we're comfortable with, in inverted commas, so people that are easy to access, that we've always gone to, that are uncomplicated, again in inverted commas, in terms of being able to analyse that data, which means the evidence base for those innovations is really restricted to those populations. So when you get the innovation into the real world, you've got lots of people who are unable to know if it works for them, and I think people are much more complex than these uncomplicated populations. And you can have the most perfect clinical trial, but actually if it doesn't represent the patients who might benefit from the treatment, you might as well not have done it. So it is highly relevant because innovation, it's the start of innovation, and making sure that you have the evidence base for that innovation starts with thinking about designing your clinical trials and engaging them. So just moving on to the slides. So the report will be circulated round, and it's on the website. But I think we've got the recommendations coming on the screen behind us now. So what's your biggest takeaway, do you think, from the round table?
So the round table was one of the most enjoyable discussions I've actually had as a meeting for many, many months, actually. It will stick in my mind, I think, for many, many years. And the reason for that was the passion and enthusiasm around that table, the genuine sense of wanting to do something together and not just be a talking shop, actually genuinely mean that. And when we were talking around the kind of recommendations that we would put in the report, we thought about the three parts of the jigsaw. So one part is around our patients, our community. How do we engage our community so that when a patient goes to their healthcare provider, they ask about research, they know about research, they're familiar about research. And Ganesh later will talk about some excellent work he's done in Northwest London to really talk to our communities about health and research. The other aspect is about the clinical teams. So how do you make sure that the clinical teams are offering research in equity? So myself, I live and work in Northwest London and have done for many, many years. My mum has been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And when I was seeing our clinician, who I know is very active in commercial clinical trials, he was not forthcoming about any trial opportunities. And I had to continually push to ask him about the research that was going on. And yet I knew he was conducting that research. So it's not just about the patients. If the healthcare teams are not offering the research opportunities, this is not going to work. And the other aspect of it is the sponsors. You know, if we receive trial protocols where, for example, diabetes is an exclusion criteria, you're cutting out massive swathes of the population that you're serving. You have to adapt these protocols that are relevant to the populations we serve. And that involves thinking about the next generation of academics. How do we make sure that these protocols are written truly thinking about the diverse populations that we serve? So that was a real sort of takeaways, Sheuli.
Great, thank you.
And Sheuli, what do you think the report means for the practice of pharmaceutical medicine?
Yeah, so as Angela kindly introduced, I'm Vice President of the Faculty of Pharmaceutical Medicine. And I'm imagining quite a lot of you may not know what pharmaceutical medicine is, or even that it's a medical specialty. But actually, there are over 1,000 physicians in the UK who practice pharmaceutical medicine. So that's developing and looking after, having responsibility for medicines and new innovations and ensuring access. But also many of you will be practicing pharmaceutical medicine without even sort of putting that name to it, because it's about that development of innovation and doing things in the right way. And for pharmaceutical physicians and pharmaceutical medicine, one of the central tenets is putting patients first, putting those populations first. So actually building in the recommendations from our report is really important for pharmaceutical medicine, whether that's thinking about who you're going to recruit to your clinical trials and how you make those trials accessible, whether it's about championing things within your organisation to say, look, EDI and trials, it's not a tick box thing or because the regulators have told us we should do it. Actually, this is fundamental to making sure we get innovations that matter to populations in the real world. And then there are some more technical things like, you know, looking at registries to check that they reflect the diversity of population of people with that particular condition. So I think this is it's aligned to the sort of the central tenets of pharmaceutical medicine, but the report gives a level of actionable details that our members can take away. Great.
Brilliant. I think we'll leave it there and open the floor for questions.